श्री ठाकुर प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री भक्ति विनोद परिवार की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंद How'd it go? Your service today?
Oh, well.
Not a circulation.
Yeah, I mean, we still have
Five.
4 or 5 conferences. So, yeah, I'm not lucky with some interested today.
Good. Go save Vijay.
Bye.
So, any questions tonight? I have a question.
I've heard, I was talking with one devotee about something that you were talking about in one of your classes, and that person the devotee was having trouble understanding it. And they said, yeah. And they said, I don't understand that. I'm just really trying to focus on, my sadhana and just my chanting right now. And so I was kind of like, I looked up to this devotee and I was like, that's a good point, and, it was kind of like a way for, I guess, kind of like a way of teaching me, like maybe you shouldn't be thinking so high. But then I'm also wondering about thinking about these higher things and learning about them. I know that Sambandha Gyan is essential for Nishtha, so could you talk about, I guess, that correlation and knowing your place too?
Well, I think that anyone who listens to me will be clear, I would think, on the fact that we emphasize the importance of sadhana and practice. So it's not a case wherein you're learning something and your learning about that is detracting from your sadhana, as was implied apparently by the response, but rather you're learning about it in such a way that it fuels your practice. And that's a big difference. So it's as much as we can understand the theoretical argument, Siddhanta position on the different tattvas, Guru Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Gaur Tattva, Vaishnava Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Jiva Tattva, and so forth. Notice the word Tattva in all of this. The point here is that Tattva means Siddhanta, means philosophy. What is the philosophy about Rasa? For example, which is a high ideal. What is the philosophy? What's the theoretical philosophy about it, and how it works, and so on and so forth, which is our goal to attain Bhakti Rasa, right? So acquaintance with that proper acquaintance with that should help your practice, should help you conceptualize and focus your practice. Rather than a vague idea of the ideal and the goal, and then someone asks you, what are you doing this for? And you have, well, because it's Yugadharma, Well, what's that mean? And then you don't know the answers and so forth. And you say, I don't know, I just do it. I don't know, I just do it. It's not as good as I know theoretically, and as a result of knowing theoretically, I know I have quite a distance to go, there's quite a distance between myself and where I'm at now and some of these ideas. And that's helped me to practice. I've given an example before. If you go into the mall and you want to go to room 108, there's a map, and the map says, the room is way up over here. And then it says also, and you are here. And so we emphasize both things. Where you want to go, and why, and what's the nature of that place, so that for example, you're not going to fall from there. It's eternal, and therefore it's worth pursuing more so than anything else. That's not eternal, by contrast, temporary. So it's important, this kind of points that that will help you through your practice. If you think about it, because if you start thinking about, I'm going to a place I might fall down from, it's not permanent like the other, like Brahma's planet or Indra's planet. So you think, what am I going to do that for? Why put this effort into that? Right? I could just try to be a pious person, go to Brahma Loka and Indra Loka, spend a zillion years there, come back down. So the background is different. So we make the points. To make a point as to what, for example, in my terminology, are the windows of opportunity that the Sampradaya affords us. It's very useful because we have seen persons who don't know about that and just want to practice, but if you poke them, they have said things like, Jaya Nrsimhadev, I'm a devotee of Nrsimhadev, and they don't understand that that means love and awe and reverence, and it's of the nature of Vaikuntha and Vaidhi Bhakti, not what the flow of our Sampradaya is. So it's important to go over all the tattvas. And as I say, tattva is a big word. It means Siddhanta, it means philosophy. It means to know the philosophical theory about it, to experience it, to taste it, to be relishing it, and so forth. That's another thing. We're not telling people, the goal of the Sampradaya is to be a gopi, and expecting that they're going to run out and dress up like a gopi tomorrow and think, I'm a gopi. We explain it, properly. But without such explanation, what's the Guru supposed to explain? That's what the Guru is supposed to teach us. So it's important to know the theory, and gradually, as we understand it better, we're just that much better situated in our to practice. The more Sambandha Gyan we have, the more the action that conceptual orientation fosters, which is bhakti, will be at hand and natural and difficult for you to stray from, because it kind of corners you in so many ways. So it's important to understand the theory, and sometimes that will cause us to segue into topics, for example, of Rasa Tattva, of the fact that in Chaitanya Charitamrita is asked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is the sadhana, what is the sadhya? What's the practice, the best practice, and what's the goal that will be attained by? He asks the question, Ramananda gives the answer. So we don't skip over that. There may be a place where someone may not comment on that for some time, understanding the adhikar, the eligibility of the students, and so forth. But at some point, that's going to come out and be explained, and for the benefit of the sishas, of the disciples. So, and it may be such, there may be situations where persons talk about higher ideals. Let's say they get together and they only read Krishna Vinamrita together and take notes and so forth. And there's no philosophy, and they need philosophy and tattva and so forth at that stage. And that may not be most helpful for them, and they may lose sight of where they are in terms of where they're going. That can happen. It's not happening to you. As a result of hearing from me, you're not losing impetus to practice. You're gaining impetus to practice. And if you happen to learn something from me that somebody else whom you respect has not learned, then that's your good fortune. That's your good fortune. And then to how to deal with that situation in response, I don't know the particulars, but let's hear what is the particular. What was the topic?
It was about the bhav of Gadadhar. You were talking about Gadadhar being like an empty bag.
Yeah. Actually, that's very useful to understand Gadadhar Pandit, Narada of Gaur Lila, in terms of his completely emptying himself out, so to speak, so that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could experience what he came to experience. It's a very compelling example of kind of dedication. The way he's described, for example, in the last chapter of my book, you're just thinking, well, he's a great sacrificer, right? Radharani embodies really sacrifice. She is the swaha of the Gopal mantra. Krishna is, like the enjoyer and easily misunderstood. It's difficult to misunderstand Radharani. She's the dedicating moiety, in the words of Bhaktisiddhanta, dedicating half of the absolute whole, fully sacrificing the way in which, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu steps into the bhav of Radha at the end of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which occurs in the last verse of Shikshastakam, the way in which Radharani is speaking through the mouth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very much with an emphasis on the fact that her bhava, her Radha bhava, is a serving disposition, calling our attention to the ground, if you will, on which these bhavas arise out of, the serving ego as opposed to the enjoying ego. So it's very, when we talk about it, how is it, you're getting some understanding of that, but how it's translating out to you as a sadhaka is, I should be sacrificer. I should be surrendered, sacrifice, and giving, and so these are all good things. It's not about, I want to enjoy with the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like Gadadhar was, and we're going to be, something like Gadadhar was, was fast friend of Mahaprabhu, but servant and teaching Bhagavatam and selfless and so on, as we described him. So Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj used the term empty bag in one of his descriptions. So it means like the shell of himself, having given his bhava, but it doesn't make him a zero, an empty. Someone said, sounds like my bhava, No, he's saying he's a sacrificing entity. Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj used to like to use the term negative, that we draw the absolute positive, the supreme positive, the Purusha, the pusher, the sustainer, the maintainer, by a negative attitude. That negative attitude is positive. In other words, by going backwards, by being a servant, and not by being a pusher, not by pushing back. Like I've given an example, if you have a magnetic flake and a big magnet at some distance from one another, if the magnetic flake is negatively charged, then it will be drawn to the big magnet that is positively charged. I guess they're both, but anyway, but it's just an example. But if it's positive, then it will be repelled, right? Two positives. The more stronger positive will repel. So we're Purusha of a real small type. So small that sometimes we're called Prakriti. Okay, Para Prakriti. That means we're Shakti. And Krishna is the Purusha in all respects. So by a negative disposition, you'll draw the attention of Krishna, which means self-sacrificing and opening oneself up to be an instrument or something like that in service. And so we see Radha, we see Radha at the bottom, if you will, and very much in the verse that Mahaprabhu was recited, that represented him entering into that ball and being successful in his Lila. Again, the serving attitude is underscored there. So there's appropriate ways to talk about these things that can really fuel your practice. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sridhar Maharaj said he was a little more attracted to Ram than Krishna in his youth because Ram was noble and Krishna was kind of like questionable character in some ways. Yeah, he's our God, but I mean, sort of he's an enjoyer. But then when we came to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Krishna, in the mood of Radha, he's the sacrificer. Right? Then he was very much drawn to that, to the Radharani side, if you will, sacrificing Bhakti, Devi, and so forth. So it's very useful to hear these things. Someone may say, I don't know anything about the Bhava of Gadadhar. Well, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vaishnava, Shri Jasadeva. There's a book about it. It's called the Panchatattva. And they're not just names in a book, that you say over and over again for 40 years, and you don't know what they're about. So it's useful to find out what they're about. How could it not be? And to say, I don't know anything about that. I just know I need to practice. That's what we're talking about, practicing. We know that too. We know one needs that too. And what is relevant to our practice is very much knowledge about bhakti, how it works, the different tattvas and so forth. I mean, just common sense, that knowledge about what you're doing helps you to do it better. And that's why we have so many classes, discussions, so many books, and ongoing discourse and commentary. It's required. We're in a tradition like that of 500 years of commentary. Vishwanath didn't stop doing the commentary because Sanatana Goswami had done one. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Adi Maharaj didn't stop giving the commentary because Bhaktivinoda had given one, and Bhaktisiddhanta on Chaitanya Charitamrita. He drew heavily from it. He has his own commentary. He has his own commentary on the Bhagavatam. So this is a long tradition of this. This is what we're part of. And it's so, if we're to be part of that, then it should be going on in an ongoing way. And so you also take, for example, Prabhupada preached in a certain way in a certain time. The time was, 1965 to 1977, 12 years. And a good portion of that in America, and a portion of that traveling around the world. In 12 years going around the world, you can only spend so much time in every place. He had lots of disciples to join. Some of them we never met him even, personally. Was how broad his campaign was. And in the midst of that, he was writing his commentaries and so forth. And all of this was directed, for the most part, even in India, as you see the people probably kind of hung out with in Bombay and morning walks and so forth. Well, they knew a little more, they knew a little Gita and so forth. They didn't understand Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And people in the Western world didn't know anything about Vedanta for the most part. Many of them knew nothing about Hinduism really. It was the beginning of speak of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and so forth. So obviously he's going to speak to them on a certain level. Now you can say, well, you didn't know anything about it either, right? Why should I speak to you on another level about it? Well, the reason is because it's not 1965 and 1977, and it's now 2016.
2016.
So that's what, how many years after that? 77 is 77.
39.
How many? 39 years. 39 years. And what's happened in 39 years? Well, materially speaking, lots of things have happened in 39 years. I mean, there's an internet. That's one that people can't live without. Cell phones. People can't live without them. There's plenty of time people live fine without them. I mean, say that science, with the help of in the hands of technology, has done a lot of things. The world's going in a lot faster. There's a lot more information around and available. I mean, I was born before TVs existed, televisions, and there was like some radios and stuff, right? So, you know, information is a lot more at hand now. And, materially speaking aside, information and insight about Gaudiya Vaishnavism is out and about, and quite a bit more so than when I joined Prabhupada. But none, except what was coming from Prabhupada. That's all. Since his departure, then largely because a number of his disciples had considerable difficulty filling his shoes in terms of serving in the capacity of gurus and successors. Krishna didn't, wait for them. So so he sent other people to help. And one of them, at least, probably opened the door to, obviously, Vijayapatri Maharaj, who said he could go to for philosophy after my departure, so forth. So he came on the scene. He's talking about it now. He's going to talk about it a little differently for a couple of reasons. One, because his whole orientation to it is coming from a background of being born in Madam, in a Brahmin family, having been initiated by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur before Prabhupada was, having taken sannyas from Saraswati Thakur, being a leading preacher in the monastery while Prabhupada was a householder, who lived together with Prabhupada in his house after the disappearance of Bhaktisiddhanta, where they wrote their Gita commentaries together, and who watched the campaign of Prabhupada and helped it to some extent as well. Prabhupada get land in Mayapur and so forth, and hosted Prabhupada when he came back from America first time at his ashram and so forth, and watched it with great delight to see it all happening. And then, to his surprise, was met by a whole group of Prabhupada's disciples on his veranda. We were sitting peacefully to learn that Prabhupada had disappeared from the world, and they had said, for philosophy, we could come and hear from you. So, okay. He thought, okay, here they are. Now they've been involved in this for 10, 12 years, whatever it is. And so they asked a question. And from the questions, he could understand something. He thought, oh, they've understood like this to this extent. And so, as an uncle, so to speak, he started sharing his perspective with older disciples of Prabhupada who were thought to be persons who would succeed him, and thinking they needed some nourishment and understanding, development of ideas, concepts, and so forth, in order to fulfill those shoes, which they did need. Obviously, unfortunately, they weren't able to take advantage of Sridhar Maharaj, and they criticized him against him, and that didn't help the situation. So, some of us, however, well, we saw the situation, so we went to Sridhar Maharaj for the knowledge. When the leaders didn't, they said, well, we'll follow Sridhar Maharaj, and he'll be our leader then, because Prabhupada being told us him, and as I say, and then they're not leading us in a way that we're feeling nourished. So we went, and so we were nourished. And so then we started to share that nourishment. And we met other people also. These are Bhagavatas, Prabhupada, who promote Puri Goswami, who would come annually to Sridhar Maharaj's mouth on the day of his Vyasa Puja and glorify Sridhar Maharaj, whom he considered his Siksha Guru. really hear from him. After Sri Maharaj's appearance, met him also in Mathura, where he was coming for Kartik, and helped his mission to become as widespread as it did. His disciple named Ramdas, who I brought to Puri Maharaj, who needed initiation. He was initiated by an ISKCON guru who had fallen away. He said, "Come, take him to meet somebody." And then he wanted to be initiated. When he wanted to be initiated, I went with him. And Puri Goswami Maharaj asked me that, I said, "You're giving Harinam and Diksha." He said, "Diksha also?" I said, "Yes, Diksha also." So he did. Ramdas published the books of Puri Maharaj, took old articles, got them translated, put out literature. He funded the purchasing of several properties in Jagannath Puri, in Vrindavan, or helped in Vrindavan and other places, and became a good disciple in that respect of Puri Goswami Maharaj. So we had his association too, and Sri Maharaj's, and they were treating us like we were sannyasi, like I was treated like I was a sannyasi, and I knew something, and still had more to learn. And so they were teaching on a different level, not something different than probably but different circumstances going to cause a teacher to speak about it relative to the circumstances. At some point, about 10 or so years after that, after I had gone to Sri Maharaj, some of the disciples of Prabhupada and ISKCON had departed from the mission, feeling lack of nourishment in their own estimation, and they took the guidance of Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, who's like a spiritual cousin of someone like myself, senior, older, but disciple of one of Prabhupada's godbrothers. And so he shared with them much of his insights about Gaudiya, fine-tuned their understanding of things that are in Prabhupada's books that they weren't able to draw out, basic concepts and so forth, and explain them to them in ways that just their reading the books, they weren't able to get that. So the necessity for such nourishment from sadhu along with the books is obvious. It's my experience and what Prabhupada taught. So then you have further, unfortunately, ongoing kind of spiritual leadership problems in the form of movement of Prabhupada that was all over the world. And then they started going, people get fed up with the group, having had 2 or 3 gurus in it. And so they go elsewhere, and some have gone to other lineages and go to Vaishnavism. And so then they're being taught in those lineages, go to Vaishnavism in a particular way. Different acharyas are going to emphasize different ways. And there may be some different interpretations too of how to proceed with regard to certain issues and so forth that are relative to those lineages. And okay, we judge it by the results, whatever. But point is, overall, that and they publish their books and so forth. There's not just Prabhupada's books. Go to Vrindavan, you go to Ras Bihari Lal, a smart businessman who used to sell, cooking utensils, and this kind of thing. And he saw these Western people that the devotional stuff. They started getting incense in his place, and then he thought they liked books. So then he started carrying books. Then he started printing books and so forth. So he's got a little shop, wall-to-wall books, and it's a place where all these devotees international, many of them go internationally and get books from this Baba, that Baba, this Swami, that Swami, this Prabhu, that Das or Dasi. And there's all of them out there, right? All talking about Krishna consciousness, as it should be, in one sense. There's much to talk about, much to write about, and much to be interested about. And so it's a whole different world. And so just to say, well, I learned like this at this time, and this time applies to this time, that doesn't make sense. And so
I don't understand.
to say, well, for example, oh, so somebody taught you that Gadadhar Pandit had a bhava. I didn't even know he had a bhava, whatever. And it's not I don't know anything about that. I know that I just need to do sadhana. And the implication being, you get ahead of yourself, girl. What do you know? I've been doing this for years. I don't know anything about that. All I know is I need to read Prabhupada's books and practice my sadhana. That's all. Well, the fact of the matter is that after 40 years, somebody should know more than that. That's a problem. I don't know exactly what the person said, but I'm just extrapolating. That's a problem, really. You may respect a person in some ways; they're dedicated and so forth, but that's a problem. And that when does not avail themselves to the ongoing current of knowledge and insight that's available and so forth, they still take advantage of what's coming from Krishna to help them in their practice. And maybe in the name of that and fidelity and being true where I'm at, which is nowhere or something like that, they unfortunately may end up also offending other devotees who are speaking on another level, teaching on another level, or I should say teaching about things that they should know about and that are there in Prabhupada's books. The Bhava of Gadadhar is in Prabhupada's books. It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's one of his books, his commentary on it. So you read the book and you read the commentary, it's there. So it's like, you've been 40 years and apparently you're not reading the books that, you kind of imply you just want to keep it simple and stay with those, but they're not simple. Chaitanya Charitamrita is not a simple book. And Prabhupada expected his disciples to sit down in his own words like scientists and analyze them from so many different angles and so forth. That's what he suggested we do. That's what I do and did when I was young. We would sit and we would read, we would read Bhagavad Gita, and then at the purport side of the verse in the Bhagavatam, we'd go there. Beside the verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'd go there and follow it out until we reached the end of the thread, and then come back and read the next verse of the Bhagavad Gita. We would go through it like this, and then we would read the Nectar Devotion. We'd do the same thing. We do, and relative to what books were available at the time. Now there's more books available, so you can do that much more. And I'm not recommending that people just go read books. That's not a bad idea, but they also could be very much benefited by guidance, that they might then bring up things that they read in books and see how well they're understood, or doubts that they may have because they heard this over here differently from over here and ran into a contradiction, or I thought it was like this, and so then you have someone and you can ask the questions of that. This is what we want at all times in our life until we're just chanting, and especially if we're not teaching, you can sit and just look at one picture all day long. Possible to chant. I ran into a picture like that today. So, does that help? Yeah.
I wonder what picture.
Yeah.
What picture is it?
I'll show you sometime. Yeah, I thought how blessed I am. I could just sit and look at this forever. That's a real blessing. I think that. With very longing. So that's how you need to answer those kind of questions. Nowadays you can relate that to somebody. Whether or not, that depends on the relationship. But, there are people that we respect in so many ways, and still we may see, there's some ways in which they could improve, their lives could be improved. I mean, it's pretty sure thing that, let's say, most of the disciples of Prabhupada who are not, let's put it like this, who are not sannyasis and engaged in preaching around the world constantly, and according to the sannyas dharma and so forth, that most of them could really benefit from hearing from me, who does those things. It's not to say anything great about me, there may be other people like that. That's basically what Prabhupada taught. That's probably what taught me when he gave me sannyas. Now you teach the others. That's what you're supposed to do. So, what to speak of you, what to speak of them, you, but they most, the point is, householders, for example, just to put another, householders, typically, their lives will be spiritually enhanced by hearing from tyagis, from enunciates who are preoccupied with teaching. They're the teachers. It's ongoing. It's part of the whole culture. The whole culture. And, if the sannyasis aren't coming to your door, or the renunciates, then, you should go to their door, track them down, find something like that. You should have a flag out, come here, you're invited, It's an internet, you can put out an ongoing invitation. Any sannyasis want to come to my house, and teach and share the knowledge, I'm open, I need it. That should be the spirit. That's what Prabhupada taught. That was what was going on when Prabhupada was here. Sannyasis were teaching. Some householders can teach too. They can be advanced devotees, but more typically, that's kind of the classical situation. As householders, they have other duties and responsibilities and so forth. And so that doesn't make them bad. It just means that the time that they don't have to do that because they have other obligations is made up for by hearing from those who do that. So you may not be a sannyasi, but you have a sannyasi in your life, so no problem. Then you don't have to take the trouble to be a sannyasi, which is make trouble. So thank God, for taking the trouble, and saving us from the trouble, and we can just learn here, the easy way, and progress, and do the other things that people are believing for, they have families and so forth. No harm. If this is there. You don't have to take sannyas if you have a sannyasi in your life. Simple. Problem solved. Right? So, they would be. So you can say, well, I think that my Guru can explain it very well. You might want to come. He's in North Carolina now. Why don't you come and meet him? See him? Do you know him? I don't know him. I knew him when he was naked as a child. I always think of him as such. That's a Bengali logic. I knew you when you were a child and you were naked. So we might have learned from you. Something like that. They have it's just a saying. I knew him when he joined. Guess what? That's not all he did was join. And I'm not saying trying to say I'm great, but that's my role. I have that role. That's my service. Let me do my service. That's all I ask. If you don't let me do my service and speak, then I'm not going to go to your house. That's for sure. Just to get a meal. No, I'm not for that. I'm not going to be told what to say and what not to say. I say the truth, and I do thoughtfully according to time and circumstance, and where I am, what to say and what not. That's art, but But we need this. We need this kind of, this is a natural situation. To the extent that it's not like that, households, I mean, they may be, okay, they may have seen many houses misrepresent and so forth. But that's not an excuse for not growing and taking advantage of that system. Therefore, if they're not happening in your group, then you go to another group. That's real simple. I told the Lord, look, there's 25 guys meeting in that room, and 25 guys meeting there under the modes of nature. And there's one person sitting over there who's not in the modes of nature. I mean, can you do the math? I'm going there. Okay, I've heard from the Gunas, and I'm not impressed. And that was the governing group at the time, and he didn't disagree with me. They were all under the influence of the modes of nature. So it's real simple. That's the teaching. Not I stay in a group because it's a group. I'm not saying, and also, it shouldn't be mutually exclusive. That leaving the group because of the way it is, it's not giving you a chance to speak or nourishing you. That leaving it is not serving it, maybe serving it. Leaving it doesn't mean you're not serving it. You may be setting an example. And probably he invited you to merge into the mission. So if you guys want to kick him out, for example, that's your doing. But I'm not going to be part of that. So we should have a little courage to go where there's Krishna consciousness. If Krishna says, come over here, and you go all the way over there. If you're, here, and Davji Gopal says, come to Madhavan. Okay. You go all the way to Madhavan. He says, go to Adari. I'm there as Gorantal, I go there. And you say, you told me to come all the way over here. Now you want me to go, you don't just go, you don't say, wait a minute, you can't tell me to go there. You told me. So wherever he is, that's where you go, right? Wherever the sound, it's not like, wow, that was a really great class, but it wasn't supposed to be. Because I learned that this guy was over here, and he was not in our group, and therefore he shouldn't be able to inspire me. In fact, it should be just the opposite. I went out of the courtesy, but actually I was inspired. But that was a great class, Moshe, but what am I supposed to do with that? Really that but is so like, what it really means is that I was taught this wasn't supposed to happen. How can that be? Well, maybe you were taught wrong. But, how did you get involved in this in the first place? When you met Prabhupada, you say, wait a minute, he's not a Catholic. Right? Sounds good, but I'm Jewish. Sounds good, but I'm a Catholic. Why now all of a sudden it becomes, well, why you used your reason. Your reason was drawn upon. Also, when you joined, your heart, but your reason, you were asked to understand arguments, philosophy, and we needed the teacher needed to satisfy your intellect to some extent, right? So now we just throw it out. Is there not an ongoing necessity for that? To examine your beliefs and so forth, and implications of them. And that's part of bhakti. It's not like bhakti without any introspection. Oh yeah, I met this guy in the classes. Yeah, in our group there's a lot of bhaktis, and she says they're mostly all girls, ladies, and they just love the guru. And then he said, But in your talk, for a bhakti, you sure have a lot of jnana. I said, it's jnana. And bhakti is not just some sentimental you're following without any knowledge, without any introspection, and so forth. What is the verse from Bhagavatam? It's making the point. Bhakti is not just some sentiment without philosophy. And for philosophy, you have to have a brain. You have to use your intelligence. It does tax your intelligence for the reason that will help you. So understand. If you now come up, let's say you're reading, you come up with something that seems contradiction. You ask properly, and he answers the question for you. Okay. Now he's gone. Come up with a contradiction. You go, oh, okay. I guess it's inconceivable. Why the change of policy? Why are you no longer allowed to use your intellect and try to sort it out? That's the spiritual use of the intellect. People say, oh, just an intellectual. He's just an intellectual. That's all. Well, no, she's using her intelligence for Krishna. Krishna says in Gita, those who study this conversation, they worship me with their intellect. It's not that he or she is just an intellectual. It's you're not willing to use your intelligence to Krishna. What does he want? Dumb people? And don't give me the Gyan Shunya Bhakti then. Because gopis, they seem to have no knowledge. But again, when they come to this world, they seem to have a lot of knowledge, don't they? Goswami seem to know quite a bit. So, use your intelligence. Be thoughtful. Prabhupada wanted thoughtfully, independently minded, thoughtful disciples. Otherwise, people just call you brainwashed. And they have good reason. You have unexamined beliefs, you can't explain them, you just hide your head in sand, there's a contradiction that appears, instead of sorting it out. If you can't, on your own seeking guidance, and so forth. It's important. Right? So what's the time?
7:57.
Anything else?
Take too long.
Okay. All right. Shri Shri Gauranga Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Shri Nadi Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Vinod Parivar Ki Jai. Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanand.